afternoon to the viewers and listeners of Suniye. We welcome Dr. Alok Bajpai from Kanpur again. Very good day to you, Alok.
Hi. Good morning.
How is life in Kanpur?
Good, sir. Good. Busy. Life is keeping
Wonderful.
busy.
Yes, thank you very much that you have early in the morning at 9 o'clock. This first thing that you're doing is with us for Sunyato, and it's 2:30 in the afternoon of Friday
Wow.
here on the 30th of October. So
Right.
welcome once again. You don't need an introduction because we have done so much things,
Yeah.
so many things with you with respect to neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and human mind and brains and psychiatry, of which you are an expert and a well-known worldwide scientist and whatever else. There are so many words I can come up with you.
Don't.
Teacher, and a propagator of wonderful uh, ideas that keeps the humanity going. So, in this episode that we're talking about, and thank you very much in advance for your time, we will look at the situation of uh, artificial intelligence, and with respect to, in particular, the artificial intelligence as it was thought up in science fiction more than 30 years ago. Well, Asimov thought about these things much earlier, but then based on Asimov's laws and so on, things were created which were quite successful and still are going in the science Star Trek series of science
Right.
fiction. Now,
Right.
we will ask you to follow this up, but just as an introduction to this particular session, what we're doing here is basically concentrating on Android robos as they are predicted and portrayed in the Star Trek series, mainly in the 1988 Star Trek Next Generation series. So let me share the screen of what it's all about. Please allow me to go there. And if we look at a particular android who was called Data. All right, so as we can see here, Data is a character created by Gene Roddenberry, who was the main producer of the series, and he was very much a character that was an android, and as you can see, he's the first appearance was in something called Encounter at Farpoint, 1987, the Next Generation series, and his last appearance was in the 2020 series Picard, and then he was created by Gene Roddenberry and DC Fontana, and it was portrayed as by in the film as an android person called Brent Spiner played the role. And the usual species is song type, synthetic intelligence, android, and it's a life form, its gender was male, and so on. So affiliation was United Federation of Planets, and eventually, they talk about family. We'll take up one of the family members in this episode. So coming back to our discussion, what we need to look at is the way science fiction was thought up in the 1980s, and the creation of Android was, at least in science fiction, very highly developed. And they portray the series in 2400. So as per that series, what they are saying is that by 2400 we'll have humanoid or android beings that will have all the functionality that a human being has, plus a lot more in terms of strength and capability to do things faster and so on. So that is the kind of science fiction that was thought up then and just continued on, and various forms have come of it. So I believe you have some other new angle on the situation of artificial intelligence.
So the angle is not from the angle of artificial intelligence. What I was thinking after you had posted me these questions and these ideas essentially was that triggered another question in my mind actually, which I wanted to share with you after giving a thought.
Wonderful.
So the thought was, the question which came into my mind, what was the need for talking about artificial intelligence?
Right.
What was the need? After all,
exactly.
What is the need of writing a science fiction of 2400? What is the need for Asimov or anybody for that matter to even imagine that there should be somebody who is a humanoid or an android or whatever.
A machine, yeah.
A machine or whatever. So I think if we address this question, then a lot of other questions which we are going to talk about, laws and ethics, will become clearer.
Wonderful. Great.
That is very important. Otherwise, this whole talk is going on about ethics. But why? The big question is why. So I think there is this human need always which has been there as man evolved, of correcting oneself, of making oneself perfect, and of mirroring oneself. So what is the need? Is it to find a mirror to oneself? Is it that we are aware that we are not totally all right, and we want to find a better version for self?
Right.
Or we want a machine like any other machine, like wheel and fire or any other natural force to assist us? Or is it the need that we do not understand the black box of our own mind? What we know is what we call epistemology of a lot of things. Right. That means the explanation which we give. We don't know the ontology. Like in quantum physics, we know the mathematics of it.
Right.
But we don't know what is a quantum world actually. None of us know it. Similarly, there are other things which we know, models we know. We create a model, we know our models. Whether that is truth or not, we really don't know.
Yes.
Mathematics, like we talked last time, mathematics can prove it, but still. So the big question which actually I think is there in everybody's mind, that if there is, some people know the black box, some people know in the history of human race, some people have brought us new truths like Gödel and Einstein and all that. So is this revelation of truth available to only few people? Or is it available to everybody? You understand?
Right.
So if they have had a revelation, that revelation is also coming from your own brain.
Right.
Or is it coming from, as a spirituality and religion would say, God is revealing?
God is.
So anyway, even if God is living, like I told last time, God also has to have some rules. He can't set 10 to the power 11 neurons in everybody's head and reveal one thing to somebody. So obviously, so that need is the need of reverse engineering. That if you can't go from bottom up and understand how the brain is working and the black box of mind, you might as well go from top, build something and see how it works. Reverse engineer.
Right.
So it could be any of these needs, and it could be all of these needs.
Yes, you're right.
Wonderful. So now, if this is the question, that is why data was being created for 2400. Right. Then you always needed a Mr. Spock who was perfect.
Yes.
But what was perfect in Mr. Spock? While we
More
were
emotions.
why? Yes.
Mm.
So that means our brains are largely controlled by emotions.
Mm.
Even our so-called rational thought is emotional thought.
Yes.
And that is why the mind itself appears in a mess.
Mm.
If you look at the world around,
Mm.
I mean, it's a mess actually.
Exactly.
Now the question is, so do we want a world which is not in mess?
Mm.
That means we want more Mr. Spocks. That's fine. There is no problem in that. What is happening with human mind? There's continual bubbles of thought which are coming from unconscious mind to the conscious mind.
Mm. Mm.
Right? And we don't know. We just keep
Mm.
drifting from one to another. Sometimes your consciousness, your awareness can ride over it
Mm.
and make you focus on something,
Mm. Mm.
which is a skill-based thing.
Mm.
When you are interacting in the external world
Mm.
and working on something, then
Mm.
you can focus. Otherwise, you know how the mind drifts,
Mm. Mm.
isn't it? So the whole purpose of this life of mind of one person, the
Mm.
I which we talk about,
Mm.
is just the integration and processing of all the information we get. We have talked
Right.
about this in the
Mm.
past.
Mm.
There is an ingrained violence in us, which came from
Yes.
hunter-gatherer society.
Mm. Mm.
But almost to counterpoise it is altruism and sacrifice and all.
Mm. Mm.
Right?
Right.
So we continuously vacillate between these two. No, so but if it has been just this, then AI would have been no problem.
Mm.
At that level, it's already doing. Machine learning is doing this.
Mm.
After all, machine learning is just taking in data,
Yes.
going through a convoluted pattern of nodes and neural
Mm.
networks, neurons, and all that,
Mm.
and creating an output which classifies patterns. That's what machine learning is.
Yes, and also learning the practice of things, how the
Practice of
different
things.
situations are handled, and from there making up separate actions and so on,
Yeah,
individual actions.
but there's a, I think it's Gary Marcus,
Mm.
who has recently written an article in 2017, I think.
Right.
Machine learning is still lacking in a lot of things.
Ah, yes, yes.
Yeah, so machine learning is a tool, the way brain works to make you survive.
Mm.
For that, you don't require anything else. But is human life just this?
Exactly.
No. So what are we? So now go back to the what I was
Mm.
saying, that why do people want it? People, when they were writing a fiction,
Mm.
even then, and now when they are making machines, even now,
Mm.
we want a mind like Homo sapiens.
Mm.
What is the mind of Homo sapiens? All this drama of life and whatever self and I and whatever we are doing, we may be creating a mess,
Mm.
but there is a lot of stuff beyond this data integration and information.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And that is the story which the mind creates
Right.
for each individual.
Correct.
It is about the concepts.
Right.
It is about how, when you are, even a child has some understanding of physics.
Mm. Mm.
He knows you throw the ball, ball will go up. This is all
Mm.
intuitive physics,
That's
isn't it?
right.
There is a lot of intuitive understanding of space time,
Mm.
which we have to tell the machine. Here we
Mm.
know it amongst ourselves.
Right. Right.
So Einstein's space time was, I think he realized it in the head itself first,
Mm.
and then he projected it to the cosmos. So what do we want? We want the robo
Mm.
to have a conceptual mind with
Yes.
intuitive physics, with intuitive space time, right?
Right.
So that means the moment we do it, then the most important thing will come, which hallmarks um, human beings,
Mm.
and that is the subjective mind,
Right. Right.
the experiential self.
Mm.
Even if it is a creation of brain operations, that's all
Mm.
right.
Mm.
But there's a lot of creativity,
Mm.
and we are defined not by living and not by eating and doing all the reproduction and all that. That is all all animals do.
Yes.
We are known by our relational existence.
Yes. And actions that
So we
impact the humanity.
so we relate to the other.
Yes.
We relate to the community. We relate to kids. We relate to a lot of other things.
Yes.
And where hormones also act. There is a bonding. There is affection. So on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying, this is Homo sapiens.
Mm-hmm.
The moment we go beyond just robo being an assistance, of robo just being a predictive machine, a robo just being a deep machine learning, which can predict future and tell you things and suggest you things. The moment we go beyond it, we will immediately get into a relational world.
Right.
Where AI is not there, but AI may be there when we are talking of 2400.
Yes.
That
Exactly.
was that was the imagination.
Yeah, that's it, because it was a very clever thought that it will take time for machines to achieve that sort of a goal, where even these days the machine learning is the new concept. It's not a new concept, but machine learning has been in practice only for the last 10 years or so, or less than that.
Right.
And the two advantages of robots that I see, and where the world is going, is the efficiency and the power that a human being can't have otherwise, like lifting big weights and pushing heavy items and whatever else, and being able to defend oneself and defend its owner and so on, without much damage to it, in terms of what usually happens to a human being. But the other point is it's a constant struggle in the series, where data is machine learning the emotions. And you talked about Dr. Spock, and in fact they claim that this was data was thought up based on upon the personality of Dr. Spock. And Spock was from a planet who where the emotions were totally controlled.
Right.
It's not that they didn't have any emotion, but they were totally controlled. And coming back to this business of what you said, that there is a need to relate to the world, which is now being even wished that a machine that we build would have. And that is the two major things that I see. One is longevity or immortality, and the other is emotions in terms of showing oneself off and being able to do the best things and so on, and remaining within the norms of the society, the ethics and so on. So those are the things that
even before we come to ethics, sir, let's not bother about longevity and all. There was some report by 2045 you will have genes which will change it. That's all big data. How do you use it? So let's take a step back. So that was one level, that why do we need AI and what AI we need. Emotions, wonderful. And relational thing, wonderful. But that brings another complication. So what are human beings? Human beings replicate.
Right.
So the message which you had sent me had mentioned about LAL. Right. So would you like to tell a word about that?
Yes, that's good.
Let me connect the next one to that.
Yeah. Well, that's good, because what I had wanted to do was talk about the part where LAL is actually a what you call a daughter of data that he creates in 2066 on the enterprise itself. She exceeded data's capabilities in several ways, notably by being able to complete more than 60 trillion calculations per second. using verbal
Right.
contractions and feeling
Right.
emotions such as fear and love.
Right. Wonderful.
So that's the nature of the
So,
beast, as it were.
no,
Not the beast, but even the
no, no,
robo has
it's,
that
it's not beast,
internal
sir.
wish. Yeah, the
It,
beastly feeling that I
no,
need to
I'll tell you.
procreate and have
Let,
my
let's go
imprint
back.
on in the world.
Let's go back.
Yeah.
Now, again, the question is why we need AI. I'm telling you, this is a basic human desire. How does mythology talk about Genesis?
Exactly.
You know it,
Mm.
right? The woman was made from the rib of man, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But what was the need for God to create somebody? He was
Mm.
sitting alone, he should have been happy. Obviously, he was not happy. So he said, Chalo, we'll do something. We'll
Yeah.
create. In Hindu mythology, one of the
Yeah.
stories of Genesis is now, if you're talking about Lal, Lal has been said already.
Yes.
And I think whoever wrote must have read this story of Genesis.
Right.
Brahma, one of the creator of the Trinity in
Mm.
Hindu mythology,
Mm.
Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh,
Mm.
Brahma was feeling lonely.
Mm. Yes.
So Brahma was feeling lonely. What they are already talking about this loneliness. And from his thought, he creates his sons.
Mm.
But the sons walk away.
Right.
Prajapati, and then there were two other who walked away. Brahma was again lonely.
Uh-huh.
So from his thought, he arose a daughter.
Ah.